Yes. Okay. Perfect. So what can I do here with the link? Pin it. Okay. Let's pin the link. Ooh, I like that. Okay. Welcome to lunch break, everyone. SalesNation Monday. Blimey, how was your weekend? Tell you what, I'm really happy that I have my coffee with me. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Anyway, we're going to have a great time today. We have a couple of topics to discuss, especially what we're going to be talking about over the next 1 to 2 weeks. But anyway, let's see how many are joining today. So we should be live on TikTok. This is TikTok. Then we should be live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, and on my LinkedIn profile. I hope everybody is here and can join us. If not, I'm going live anyway. Okay. Let's see. Can you hear me? Perfect. Nobody in, but that's fine. So we got a couple of things to discuss right now. One topic is objection handling. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Let me just check that my microphone is all there and all good. Yeah, it should be. Perfect. So what are we going to do now? We are discussing a couple of things. Yeah, a couple of things. And just let me show you what we're doing right now. And also let me hide that. Perfect. So over the next 2 weeks, every lunch break will have a specific sales related topic. So today we start with objection handling, and then we'll go on until Friday, right? So Tuesday, tomorrow, we'll design a sales script that converts like crazy. On Wednesday, the topic is master your discovery calls, how you can close more leads and disqualify quicker. Thursday, one of my favorite topics, beyond cold calling. What are better options than that? Thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Ellie, Björn, thank you so much. On Friday, I was thinking about Friday more of an open discussion and ask me anything Friday, anything sales related. I think that could be quite interesting. So we'll leave the Friday as ask me anything. Can't talk. Ask me anything. So AMA Friday. Then that is this week's Friday. On Monday, which is the 30th of May, we're going to define our target account matrix. So everything that we need to define who are our ideal target accounts, right? The companies, the businesses that we want to sell to, that we want to get into. So we need to define that. And part of the probing sales framework is the matrix that we've built, where you can just plug in all the things that you need about your target accounts and then go on. So that will happen on Monday next week. Tuesday next week, which is the 31st of May, we're going to have a follow-up session. Follow-ups, how do we do follow-ups with the probing sales framework? A follow-up is basically where the money is, right? So you can win revenue or you can lose revenue like crazy if you're not doing the follow-up correctly or in a way that drives the revenue towards your pipeline. So that will happen on Tuesday, the 31st. Christine, thank you for joining. Thank you everyone for joining. Tap the screen. Send me some little hearts. I like that. If you can hear me well, or send a comment below. Just want to know that you're there. Thank you so much, Ellie. Tuesday next week. Wednesday next week. This is the 1st of June. The 1st of June. Didn't we just celebrate Christmas yesterday? Freaking hell, 1st of June. We are going to dive a little bit into LinkedIn profile optimization, specifically for SDRs, BDRs, AEs, how you guys can build authority without kind of giving away that you're an SDR. So I think, hi Sam, thanks for joining. So I think that will be quite interesting how we can leverage LinkedIn. So that will happen on Wednesday, the 1st of June. On Thursday, the 2nd of June, we're going to follow up the session with an ICP matrix, the ideal client profile. And that kind of plugs into the target account matrix from Monday next week. So we have the target accounts that we want to sell into, and also the ICPs, which is basically the decision makers in that target accounts. Who do we need to talk to? How can we leverage LinkedIn to talk to our decision makers? So that happens on Thursday, the 2nd of June. And again, on Friday, the 3rd of June, we're going to do another AMA Friday. I know last Friday, we all were kind of tired from the week. We didn't really bother to join live streams. So I want to keep these Fridays open to just give you a platform to ask me any sales related question. I don't know, sales conversation, sales calls, cold calling, prospecting, closing, negotiating, whatever it is. So I think the Fridays, but just keep it casual, casual Friday, and just open up the questions on Friday. So today we're going to handle an objection that comes up quite often, and that is, I'll discuss it with my boss. There's one of my favorite objections, because you can bet, if you're in enterprise sales, if you're in B2B sales, you can bet that this objection will come up like clockwork. But before we do that, you got your beverages, you got your coffees. Tap the screen, give me some likes, tap some comments, type some comments below, so I know that you're there, and we can have a great conversation and discussion. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We're handling objections today. So let me just check who we got here. We got on Facebook, we got on Twitch. Thanks very much for joining. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Right. So that was the outlook, what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. So make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn. Go to the profile up here, give us a follow, and you'll be notified every time we go live. If you're in sales, you don't want to miss that. If you're in B2B sales, enterprise sales, even if you're a startup founder or an entrepreneur, wanting to know how you can leverage your sales pipeline, how you can close more deals in your existing pipeline, and even also build your pipeline. I think these lunch breaks are great for you, because every day we are discussing one topic that is sales related, that helps you generate more revenue and get cracking. So today, the topic, and we'll make it short, we cut straight to the point. The objection that we are going to handle is, I'll discuss it with my boss. In enterprise sales, that is quite typical. You will come across that. I'll discuss it with my boss. Anywhere where we have more than one decision maker, we're going to hear that. So we need to be prepared for that, right? So what that means, every time I hear that, what that means subconsciously is it's a sign that they haven't seen how our solution would be an asset instead of a liability, right? Because everything that we do, everything that we want to provide to our customers and prospects is value, is an asset, right? Why should they do business with us if we are not adding value to them, if we are a liability rather than an asset? So that is one thing that subconsciously is going on. Is sales is psychology. That's what it is. So we need to be a little bit of a psychotherapist, and we need to be clever about that. So they haven't seen how our solution would be an asset, how our solution could help them be more efficient, be more productive, be more profitable, cut costs, and so on, whatever your value proposition is. And some of the typical and biggest mistakes that I see coming up in sales, and I made these mistakes myself. When I started out in sales 25 years ago, boy, I don't want to listen back to my calls from back then. you know, it's all about training. It's all about upgrading your skills and just learning new skills so you can become better at your game. So biggest mistakes in handling objections is a lot of us are trying to convince prospects otherwise. The moment we hear an objection, like I have to discuss it with my boss, if you're a rather inexperienced young starter in sales, you would say, okay, no, not really. Are you convinced? Right? Do you want to buy? That's enough. Well, it's not enough. So we need to stop trying to convince the prospect that it's not really an objection, right? So let's not convince the prospect otherwise. They raised an issue, they raised a concern, so we need to acknowledge that. And that's the biggest mistake that I've seen in over 25 years as well, is not acknowledging that objection. It doesn't matter if we think that is legitimate or not. Who cares? They raise the concern, so we need to acknowledge that, right? I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, right? Totally understand. I hear what you're saying. Number 3 biggest mistake in objection handling is this persistence to talk. We continue to talk. Even when we have an objection thrown in our face, the first thing that we want to do is take a deep breath and think about what we're going to do next, right? We don't want to be reactive. We want to respond in a way that keeps the conversation going and giving us a chance to prevent further objections and handle that specific objection as well, right? So we don't want to keep talking. Every time we hear an objection, we just want to shut up for a minute and just, let that sink in, have that space to think about the next step. And the more you role play, the more you train and practice these objections, first of all, the better you will become in handling them. And second of all, you will be able to prevent them, especially with the probing sales framework. When you apply the probing sales framework, you will be able to prevent most of the typical objections that come up simply by knowing how to lead the conversation, how to control the conversation, and how to phrase questions in a way that are helpful to you, but also to your prospect. Biggest mistakes, let's continue. Number 4, not listening and not reading between the lines, because there's always an underlying issue there, right? If we have the objection, I'll discuss it with my boss. There are so many layers to it. And we need to uncover all of that, right? It's like a flower. We need to uncover all of these layers, flower or onion, whatever you prefer. Anyway, we need to dig deeper into that objection and why this came up at this specific point in time. We also want to be reactive we also want to be responsive instead of reactive. A lot of people, especially in sales, they just react instead of respond. And responding means that you understand your prospect, you understand the other side. Reactive means you completely shut down and it comes like, you just react to it. So is that helpful? Not really. In most cases, it's not. So we need to just sit down, as I said, shut up for a second, and then respond instead of react to an objection. And what I've seen in 25 years is a lot of salespeople are simply not prepared for objections or specific objections. And that has a lot to do with training. That has a lot to do with how sales management is going about coaching us guys, training, and so on. So if you're not prepared for something, you're going to fail, right? And you have to do it over and over and over again. And so that is actually one thing that we can do on a daily basis, and that's what we do with our sales team, is the continuous role play every day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just role play these objections, role play the probing sales framework, the way you design your conversations and lead and control the conversations. That's absolutely crucial. So these are the biggest mistakes that we see on a continuous basis. If you can relate to any of that, type in the comments, yep, or tap the screen so I know that you're still with me and what I say resonates with you. And until then, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. So let's dig deeper into that objection. The objection is, I'll discuss it with my boss. It can also be, I'll have to discuss it with my boss and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's just an objection. So what does that tell us? It tells us several things. Number one, we have other stakeholders in the organization. So the person that we talk to is not the decision maker per se, is not even maybe on the level to make a decision. Maybe he's only on the level to make a recommendation to the decision-making board. So we know in the org chart where our buyer or the person, the champion that we talk to, is in the org chart of that organization, which helps us then to plot the next steps, right? So we have other stakeholders in the organization that make decisions. This also tells us that this is not a commitment and the deal is not closed. And I see a lot of salespeople just lean back and say, oh, they'll discuss it with their boss. Okay, it's like 80% done, 80% probability. No, it's not. It's not, maybe not even 50%. So just because someone or a prospect tells us something does not mean that we can draw conclusions that that deal might close soon. It might not. We don't know. We've had in the past 25 years, we've had commitments, strong commitments, and then last minute we had something that killed the deal. Internal politics, internal teams, internal decision makers, stakeholders, board of directors, advisory board members, investors, they could just come out of the blue and the deal is gone. Happens, right? So I'll discuss it with my boss. It's not a commitment. The deal is not closed. And we need to be very careful with our next steps, right? So and we can prepare ourselves for the fact that the deal might get stalled, right? When they discuss it, when our champion discusses it with their boss, they might stall the deal, right? They might put it on a lower priority. That can happen. Internal politics might get in the way. And also, one thing that we know for sure is that we have to onboard now these decision makers through our champion, because our champion is the one talking to them right now. It would be better if we had a seat at the table. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible. So we just need to work with what we have right now. And at the moment, we have our champion, and that champion goes out talking to their decision makers. So we have to make sure that all the decision makers that can make a decision to go with our solution, to buy our solution, to choose us as a vendor, are on the same page and are as convinced about our solution than our champion. And that also means we need to coach our champion, right? With the probing sales framework. So we need to guide our champion and give them the questions that they need to lead the conversations with their decision-making board, up until the point where we can get a seat at the table and take over and take control of the conversation. But in order to get to the table, we need to coach our champion and work together with them very, very closely. And that's the other point as well. We need to stay very close to our champion in terms of communication, in terms of what's the next steps, in terms of updates, right? So as soon as you can communicate with your champion on text messages or on WhatsApp, which has a slightly more personal, private tone to it, instead of just being a business communication, that's a big step, right? If you can just text your champion to get a status update in the middle of the night, that's the best relationship that you could have built. So that's that. We need to stay very close. Now, every time we hear an objection like that, an objection like, I'll discuss it with my boss, there are a lot of things that we need to do. And the first thing that we stop doing is to just sit back and relax and let things happen, and wait for feedback, wait for status updates. Now, we don't do that. We need to find out, number one, several things. We need to find out when we have an objection like, I'll talk to my boss about it. We need to find out who is that boss in terms of personality. Are they a logos, pathos, or ethos personality? Because then we can coach our champion on how to approach their boss. Number three, how is their decision dependent on other stakeholders in the company, right? In enterprise sales, there's always more than one decision maker. On average, the last number is 8 decision makers. So if we only talk to one, or maybe 2, or maybe 3, that's a great start. But we know right from the start that we have probably 5 more that we need to onboard, that we need to convince about our solution, that we need to convince about us as a vendor. And we need to get to know them to the point where we can influence and facilitate their decision in our favor, on their terms, but in our favor. Also good to know is, how did they make decisions in the past? How did they decide in the past on a certain vendor, on a certain solution? So what's the criteria there? What was the criteria last time? Further, we need to know, how would they know the value of our solution, that our solution would bring to their business without even talking to us, right? Because we, in sales, we know exactly the value. We know exactly the value proposition, the asset that our solution can be. Rise in profitability, decrease in costs, whatever your value proposition is. So, but how would they know that, right? Without even having talked to us. So how can our champion, which is excited about our solution and wants to buy it, how can they convey their excitement, their being convinced of our solution, to their decision makers, to their boss? Well, we need to coach them, and we need to know how to do that, right? And we can do that with the probing sales framework. That's all part of the probing sales framework that we've developed over the past 25 years. Also, we need to know what would prevent them from making a decision, or from making a decision that is not in our favor, right? And what would facilitate their decision making? Again, how can we eliminate time out of that deal, out of that sales cycle? Because time kills deals. The longer a deal goes on, the less likely it is to close. Now, I know in enterprise sales, of course, we do have longer sales cycles. We can have a sales cycle that is 3, 6, maybe even 9 months, 9 months long. But still, we can do things how we can minimize these sales cycles. We just got a question here. Where can others access this information on objection prevention? Well, that's all part of the probing sales framework. We have free resources available, free and paid. So if you go to our link, our account in TikTok, and click the link, you'll find a plethora of anything related to the probing sales framework, videos on YouTube, our SalesNation podcast, and so on. If you're on YouTube, or if you're on LinkedIn, just go to my account and have a look there. There's really links all over the place on LinkedIn. Start with the free stuff. Start with the free stuff that we put out. Join our lunch breaks every weekday, because that's where we spit facts and just help you guys get comfortable with objection handling and the probing sales framework. If you're more like a self-learner, we have a comprehensive 3-hour platform, 8 videos, 3 hours that go deep into these into the probing sales framework and just explains everything that you need to know to get started with it. Also, let's continue. We need to find out several more things, or at least it would be ideal if we found that out. How would our champion convey our value to the decision makers, to their boss? We don't know that, so that's why we need to coach them. That's why we need to stay in control of that conversation, even if we're not present. But we can control a conversation even if we're not present, at least to a certain degree. And that's what we want to do. That's what we need to do. We would need to ask ourselves, why would their boss even listen to our champion, right? Does the champion have a good standing with their boss? What other projects are there that would take up their time at the moment, which might be a higher priority than our project right now? And also, things like what's in it for them to make a decision now instead of 12 months. Again, buy cycles and sales cycles, they can take time, especially in B2B and enterprise sales. So anything that we can do to reduce that time frame, that cycle, that's what we need to do, right? And what is it that we can facilitate so that they would make a decision rather sooner than later? Anything anything like that, anything that could add to that is absolutely helpful. Right. So that's the way how we would handle something like that on the larger scale. Of course, if you tune in tomorrow, we do a sales script where we put these things in a script as well, because you want to know what to say, right? How to respond when your prospect on the phone says, well, okay, I'll discuss it with my boss. I'll keep you in the loop. You don't just want to hang up and say, okay, thank you, right? So that's letting go of control. We don't want that. So we want to avoid that. We want to stay in control all the time. We want to be the ones to facilitate the decision and stay in control as much as we can. So we'll talk about that tomorrow at lunch break. We are half an hour in. We discussed all the topics that we are going to discuss and cover over the next 2 weeks. Everything sales related. I'm really looking forward to that. Monday to Friday. And every Friday we do like an AMA, like an Ask Me Anything about sales, about any objections you might have come across, any follow-ups, any prospecting, any sales conversations or sales calls, and so on and so on. We'll do that on Friday. So that's it for now. Let me see if you have any more questions. If you have questions, just put it in the comments below here on TikTok, but also here on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or as they say in Brazil, Facebook, as I learned over the weekend, which is, I think, quite cute. Anyway, we're live on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, also on, let me just check, we should be live on 5 channels. On Twitter, I forgot Twitter. My God, yes, we're live on Twitter as well. If you have any questions about objection handling, drop them in the comments below right now while I sip on my coffee. Thank you very much for all your hearties. We got 138 likes. Can we get some more tabs on the screen to get, let's say, to 200? Please. Jetta joined. Thank you so much for joining. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the likes, Ellie. Really appreciate that. In the TikTok live, there should also be some links to the probing sales framework. So anywhere you can get your hands on it. We got free stuff. We got loads and loads of free resources about the framework, about this framework. So you can take it. If you're an SDR, if you're a BDR, if you're an AE, this framework is perfect for you. This is absolutely brilliant and perfect and elegant, and you can read into it. You can watch the videos or even watch the masterclass and then apply it on the same day or the next day and really see the results. That's it. Perfect. Any more questions from your side? If no, then I'm going to see you tomorrow, lunch break. And our topic tomorrow, we are going live and design a sales script that converts like crazy, which is all based on the probing sales framework. So tune in tomorrow. We've got 220 likes. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Let's leave it open for a while. Maybe someone puts in a question here as well. We've got one on YouTube, one on Twitch. Let's see. I like Twitch. This is pretty cool. I'm not a gamer, but I like Twitch. Let's show them some sales tactics and tricks. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, A2I Academy. Appreciate it. And we are stopping the live right now, and I'll see you tomorrow. And same here. See you tomorrow. Don't miss out on that.